The space station Liberty hung in the darkness of space like a bright jewel. Its silver hull reflected the distant starlight as it orbited near the edge of human territory. Inside the station, Commander Ethan Wells looked out the large viewing window at the approaching alien ship. His heart beat faster. This was a historic moment, the first official meeting between humans and the Galactic Alliance. "Are you nervous, Commander?" Dr. Olivia Grant asked, joining him at the window. Her dark hair was pulled back in a neat bun and her eyes sparkled with excitement. As the station's lead xenobiologist, she had been waiting for this moment her entire career. "A little," Ethan admitted. "We've prepared for months, but meeting an entirely new civilization is still overwhelming." The alien ship was elegant and curved, unlike the more practical designs of human vessels. It glided toward the docking bay with perfect precision. "They're called Zephyrians," Olivia said. "According to the messages we've exchanged, they breathe similar air to ours but evolved on a low-gravity planet. They might find our station's gravity uncomfortable." Ethan nodded. "The welcome team has been briefed. We've adjusted gravity in the diplomatic quarters to make them more comfortable." The station's communications officer spoke through Ethan's earpiece. "Commander, the Zephyrian ship has docked. Their ambassador requests permission to board." "Permission granted," Ethan replied. "We'll meet them at Docking Bay 3. Ethan and Olivia walked quickly through the station's corridors. Other crew members nodded respectfully as they passed. Everyone understood the importance of this day. After decades of searching the stars, humans had finally found intelligent alien life. More than that, they had discovered that a vast community of species existed among the stars, the Galactic Alliance. When they reached the docking bay, a small welcome committee was already assembled. The bay's large doors slowly opened, revealing the alien ship connected to the station by a sealed walkway. 3 figures emerged from the ship. They moved with a strange grace, their steps light despite the artificial gravity. The aliens were tall and slender with pale blue skin that seemed to shimmer under the lights. Their 4-fingered hands were delicate and their large eyes blinked slowly as they took in their surroundings. The alien in front wore elaborate robes with symbols Ethan didn't recognize. This must be the ambassador. Behind him, 2 others in simpler clothing carried various devices, probably for communication and security. Ethan stepped forward. "Welcome to Deep Space Station Liberty. I am Commander Ethan Wells, representing Earth and the United Human Nations." The alien ambassador made a flowing gesture with his hands. A small device on his chest translated his musical language into English. "I am Silvek, diplomatic representative of the Zephyrian Confederacy and envoy of the Galactic Alliance. We greet you in peace." Despite the formal words, Ethan noticed how tense the aliens appeared. Silvek's eyes darted around the room and his assistants stayed unusually close to him. "We have prepared quarters for you," Ethan said. "We can begin formal discussions when you've had time to rest." "Thank you," Silvek replied. "However, we prefer to begin immediately. Time is of concern." Ethan exchanged glances with Olivia. This wasn't the plan, but flexibility was important in diplomacy. "Of course. Please follow me to the conference room." The group walked through the station's main corridor. Ethan noticed how the aliens flinched when they passed human crew members. Something wasn't right. In the conference room, everyone took seats around a large table. One of Silvek's assistants set up a small device in the center of the table that projected a holographic map of the galaxy. "Commander Wells," Silvek began, "we have observed your species for some time before making contact. You should understand your position in the galactic community." The hologram zoomed in on a small section of a spiral arm. A tiny dot pulsed. "Blue. This is Earth," Silvek continued. "Your world is classified as a Class 12 death world." "Death world?" Olivia repeated, leaning forward with interest. "Yes. Planets are classified by habitability standards. Class 1 worlds are paradise planets, perfect conditions for life. Class 15 are uninhabitable." Silvek's large eyes blinked, slowly. "Class 12 is extremely unusual for intelligent life to evolve upon." "What makes Earth a death world?" Ethan asked. "High gravity, extreme temperature variations, atmospheric oxygen levels that would be toxic to many species, dangerous predators, natural disasters. Silvek gestured toward the humans. Your bodies evolved to survive these conditions. You are stronger, denser, more durable than most sentient species. Olivia nodded with understanding. And that's why you seem afraid of us. The room fell silent. Silvek's assistants exchanged glances. We are cautious, Silvek admitted. My species evolved on a world with 1/3 of Earth's gravity. Your strength is concerning. Ethan leaned forward. Ambassador, we have no intention of harming anyone. We seek peaceful cooperation with the Galactic Alliance. Your intentions may be peaceful, Silvek said, but what you consider normal may be dangerous to others. A friendly pat on the back could break our bones. Your idea of comfortable temperature would burn our skin. Olivia pulled out her tablet. I understand your concerns. As a xenobiologist, I've been studying the physiological differences between our species. We can establish safety protocols. An alarm suddenly blared throughout the station. Red emergency lights flashed. Ethan's communicator buzzed. Commander! Lieutenant Ryan Carter's voice was urgent. Unidentified ships approaching. 3 vessels just emerged from a jump point. They're not responding to hails. Ethan stood quickly. Excuse me, Ambassador, we have a situation. But Silvek had gone pale. They found us, he whispered. The Varaxians. Who? Ethan asked sharply. Raiders. Predators. They attack isolated outposts and steal technology, resources, people. Silvek's voice trembled. They must have tracked our ship. The station shuddered as something struck its outer hull. The lights flickered. All personnel to battle stations. Ethan commanded into his communicator. Activate defense systems, Olivia. Move to a computer terminal. Commander, I'm reading multiple breaches in the outer hull. They're boarding us. Silvek's assistant displayed another hologram. A red-skinned, muscular species with sharp teeth and armored skin. Varaxians, he explained. They evolved on a Class 10 Deathworld, nearly as dangerous as humans but without your restraint. Why? Are they here? Ethan demanded. They seek advantages, new technologies, biological specimens. Silvek looked directly at Ethan. They would consider humans valuable resources. Another explosion rocked the station. The conference room door slid open and Lieutenant Carter rushed in, his uniform torn and a weapon in his hand. Commander, they've breached sections 4 through 7. They're heading toward the research labs. Ethan's face hardened. Ambassador, stay here where it's safe. Dr. Grant, secure your research data. Lieutenant, with me. As they rushed from the room, Silvek called after them. Commander, you don't understand what you're facing. Ethan paused at the door. Neither do they, Ambassador. Neither do they. The corridors of Liberty Station echoed with the sounds of battle. Commander Ethan Wells and Lieutenant Ryan Carter ran toward the research section, passing injured crew members along the way. Emergency lights cast red shadows across the walls. What's the situation? Ethan asked as they moved. Ryan checked his tablet. The raiders breached 3 sections simultaneously. They knew exactly where to hit us. He pointed to a schematic of the station. They're focusing on the labs and the data center. They're after our research, Ethan realized. His thoughts went to Dr. Grant and her team. Their work on human adaptation to space environments was groundbreaking. In the wrong hands, it could be dangerous. They rounded a corner and encountered their first Varaxian. The alien was tall and muscular with reddish-scaled skin and sharp teeth. It wore armor that seemed fused to its body. When it saw the humans, it raised a strange-looking weapon. Ryan fired first. His shot hit the Varaxian in the shoulder, but the alien barely flinched. It fired back, missing Ethan by inches. Their skin is like armor, Ryan shouted, firing again. Ethan noticed a fire extinguisher on the wall. He grabbed it and threw it with all his strength. The metal cylinder struck the Varaxian in the head, knocking it off balance. Ryan's next shot found a gap in the alien's natural armor, and it fell. Good throw, sir, Ryan said. Let's keep moving. They reached the main research lab. The door had been forced open, metal twisted and sparking. Inside, they found chaos. Equipment was smashed, data screens shattered. 4 Varaxians were collecting samples and downloading data. Dr. Grant and 3 other scientists were being held at weapon point. Ethan signaled Ryan to wait. They needed a plan. The Varaxians were bigger and stronger than they expected. A direct confrontation might get the hostages killed. One of the Varaxians seemed to be in charge. He was larger than the others, with dark red scales and what looked like battle scars across his face. He spoke to Dr. Grant in a deep, rumbling voice. "Your research on human cellular regeneration. Where are the complete files?" Dr. Grant stood, tall despite her fear. "That research is incomplete. It's not ready for practical application." The Varaxian leader grabbed her arm. "Krytok does not believe you, human. Your species heals faster than most. Adapts better. Survives what would kill others. This is why we came." Ethan realized with horror that these raiders hadn't randomly attacked the station. They had specifically come for human biological research. Another explosion rocked the station. The lights went out completely. Then emergency power came on. Ethan's communicator buzzed. "Commander, this is Security Chief Garcia. The raiders have planted explosives in the power core section. They're creating a diversion." The Varaxian leader, Krytok, smiled, showing sharp teeth. "Time to leave." He gave orders to his team in their harsh language. 2 of them started dragging Dr. Grant and another scientist toward the exit. "They're taking hostages," Ryan whispered. "We have to stop them." Before they could act, a voice came from behind them. "Commander Wells." Ethan turned to find one of Zilvek's assistants, Nalavi, crouched in the shadows. The slender blue alien held a small device. "I can help," Nalavi whispered. Zephyrians have encountered Varaxians before. Their vision is sensitive to certain light frequencies. She handed Ethan the device. "This will create a pulse that will temporarily blind them, but you must act quickly." Ethan nodded. "Ryan, when I activate this, get the hostages clear." Ryan positioned himself closer to the lab entrance. Ethan pressed the button on Nalavi's device and threw it into the lab. A bright flash filled the room, followed by roars of pain from the Varaxians. Ryan rushed in, grabbing one of the scientists and pulling her to safety. Ethan entered from another angle, helping a second scientist escape. But the effect didn't last long. The Varaxians recovered quickly, and Krytok, still holding Dr. Grant, back toward another exit. "You fight well for prey," Krytok growled at Ethan, "but you cannot stop us." More Varaxians arrived, covering Krytok's retreat. A firefight erupted in the corridor. Ryan pulled Ethan back as weapons fire scorched the wall where he had been standing. "They're heading for the shuttle bay," Nalavi said. "They have a boarding craft docked there." Ethan tried to coordinate a response, but the station's communications were disrupted. They could only watch as the Varaxians retreated, taking Dr. Grant and samples of her research with them. "Alert all ships in the sector," Ethan ordered once communications were restored. "The Varaxians cannot be allowed to escape with our people." But it was too late. By the time they reached the shuttle bay, the Varaxian craft had already detached from the station. Through the bay window, they watched it rendezvous with the larger Varaxian ships. Captain Samantha Miller's voice came through the damaged communication system. "Commander Wells, this is the USS Defiance. We're in pursuit of the Varaxian vessels, but they're charging their jump drives." "Do whatever you can to stop them, Captain," Ethan replied. "They've taken hostages, including Dr. Grant." "Understood. But their ships are—" Captain Miller's voice cut off as a bright flash lit up space. The Varaxian ships, along with the USS Defiance, vanished into the jump point. In the aftermath, Liberty Station was badly damaged. Medical teams treated the injured while repair crews worked to stabilize critical systems. Ethan met with Zilvek in what remained of the conference room. "I apologize, Commander," Zilvek said. "We did not expect the Varaxians to track us here. They must have been monitoring Alliance communications." "Why did they target us specifically?" Ethan asked. "What do they want with Dr. Grant's research?" Nalavi stepped forward. "The Varaxians have been trying to enhance their warriors for generations. They believe that by studying Deathworlders, especially humans, they can incorporate your adaptive traits into their own species." Ethan's expression darkened. "They want to use our biology as a weapon," Yes, Zilvek admitted. And if they succeed, they could become unstoppable. A communications officer entered the room. Commander, we've received a message from the USS Defiance. They've tracked the Varaxian ships to the Cygnus sector but lost them near an asteroid belt. Captain Miller requests instructions. Ethan looked at the damage reports on his tablet. His station was crippled, his people injured or taken, but giving up wasn't an option. Tell Captain Miller to maintain position. I'm going to request reinforcements from Earth Command. He turned to Zilvek. And I'll need everything the Alliance knows about these Varaxians. The Alliance Council will be reluctant to get involved, Zilvek warned. They fear confrontation with the Varaxians. They should be more afraid of what happens if the Varaxians succeed in their plans, Ethan replied. And they should understand something about humans. We don't abandon our people, ever. Nalavi looked at Ethan with newfound respect. This is why Deathworlders are different. You don't just survive harsh conditions, you refuse to accept defeat. Ethan nodded grimly. The Varaxians wanted to learn about humans. They're about to get an education they didn't expect. Admiral Frank Hayes stood before the large display screen in Earth Command headquarters. His weathered face showed no emotion as he studied the damage reports from Liberty Station. Behind him, representatives from various Earth nations waited, silently for his response. How many casualties? The Admiral finally asked. 12 dead, 37 injured, Commander Ethan Wells replied via video link. His image on the screen looked tired, with a bandage visible on his forehead, and 4 taken prisoner, including Dr. Grant. And you believe these Varaxians specifically targeted her research? Yes, sir. They knew exactly what they were looking for. They wanted her work on human cellular adaptation. Admiral Hayes turned to the woman beside him. Dr. Lydia Morris, you worked with Dr. Grant. What could the Varaxians do with her research? Dr. Morris stepped forward. She was the head of Earth's Medical Research Division and understood the implications better than anyone. Dr. Grant was studying how human cells adapt to extreme conditions. If the Varaxians apply that research to their own biology, they could enhance their soldiers, making them more resilient, faster healing, possibly even able to survive in environments that would normally kill them. A murmur of concern spread through the room. We need to get her back, Admiral Hayes decided, and destroy any research the Varaxians stole before they can use it. He looked back at the screen. Commander Wells, what do your alien guests say about these raiders? The image shifted to include Zilvek standing beside Ethan. The blue-skinned alien seemed nervous addressing Earth's military leader. The Varaxians are known to the Alliance as dangerous predators, Zilvek explained. They raid isolated outposts, but avoid direct conflict with major Alliance worlds. They have a hidden base somewhere in the Cygnus sector. Will the Alliance help us find them? Admiral Hayes asked. Zilvek hesitated. I have contacted the Alliance Council, but... He looked down. They are reluctant to engage the Varaxians directly. They fear escalation. Admiral Hayes frowned. 4 of our people have been taken, Ambassador. Earth does not abandon its own. I understand, Zilvek said. And I wish to help. My people may not fight, but we can provide information, technology, and support. That's a start, Admiral Hayes replied. Commander Wells, return to Earth with Ambassador Zilvek. We need to plan a rescue operation. 3 days later, a special meeting took place at Earth Command. Kyle Bennett, a former Special Forces operative now working as a consultant, joined the planning team. Known for his unorthodox tactics, Kyle had experience rescuing hostages from impossible situations. The problem isn't finding the Varaxian base, Kyle explained, pointing to the star map. Captain Miller's ship tracked them to this asteroid belt. The problem is getting in and out without being detected. The Varaxians have sensor technology that can detect ship engines from great distances, Zilvek added. Any conventional approach would alert them. Kyle smiled. Then we don't use conventional methods. He outlined a bold plan. A small stealth ship, using technology provided by Zilvek, would approach the asteroid belt with minimal power. A team would infiltrate the Varaxian base, rescue the prisoners, and destroy the stolen research. When Kyle finished, the room fell silent. Sylvek stared at him with wide eyes. You want to deliberately land on an asteroid with minimal life support, then spacewalk to a hostile base, break in, and fight your way out? Sylvek asked. The chance of survival is... He trailed off, unable to calculate such low odds. We've done more with less, Kyle replied confidently. Admiral Hayes approved the plan. Commander Wells will lead the mission. Kyle will be his second in command. We launch tomorrow. After the meeting, Sylvek approached Ethan in the corridor. Commander, I wish to join your rescue team. Ethan looked surprised. You? No offense, Ambassador, but your people aren't exactly warriors. True, Sylvek admitted. But I have knowledge of Varaxian technology and language. I can help bypass their security systems. And... He hesitated. I feel responsible for what happened. It was my presence that brought the Varaxians to your station. Ethan considered the offer. Having someone who understood Varaxian systems would be valuable. It will be dangerous, more dangerous than anything you've experienced. I understand, Sylvek replied. But I witnessed how you refused to abandon your people. Perhaps it is time for my species to learn from yours. The next day, a small team gathered at the launch bay. Commander Ethan Wells, Kyle Bennett, Lieutenant Ryan Carter, Dr. Lydia Morris, Sylvek, and his assistant Nalavi. They would be joined by Captain Samantha Miller and a security team from the USS Defiance, which was already in position near the asteroid belt. The ship they would use was unlike any Earth vessel. Based on Sylvek's specifications, it was designed to absorb rather than emit energy, making it nearly invisible to sensors. Inside, the team prepared their equipment. Each member wore a specialized spacesuit designed for the mission. These suits can withstand extreme temperatures and radiation, Dr. Morris explained. They also have built-in medical systems that can treat injuries and administer stimulants if needed. We may need those features, Kyle said grimly. According to Sylvek's intelligence, the Varaxian base is kept at temperatures and atmospheric conditions that match their homeworld. For us, it will be like walking into an oven. As they prepared to launch, a message arrived from Alliance headquarters. A hologram appeared showing a tall, elegant alien with golden skin and piercing eyes. I am High Counselor Zariel of the Galactic Alliance, the alien announced. Ambassador Sylvek has informed us of your rescue plan. While the Council cannot officially sanction action against the Varaxians, we recognize the theft of your people, and research cannot go unanswered. Ethan stepped forward. Does that mean you'll help us, Counselor? Not directly, Zariel replied. However, we are sending Vexilor, a Seraphim scout. His species is known for stealth technology that exceeds even the Zephyrians. He will rendezvous with your ship at the edge of the asteroid belt. Thank you, Counselor, Ethan said. Do not thank me yet, Commander, Zariel warned. What you attempt is still considered impossible. No non-Varaxian has ever infiltrated one of their bases and survived. There's always a first time, Kyle said with a confidence that made Sylvek stare in amazement. As the small ship left Earth's orbit, Ethan gazed out the viewport at his homeworld growing smaller behind them. He thought of Dr. Grant and the other prisoners, wondering if they were still alive, what they might be enduring. We're coming, he whispered. Hold on. Beside him, Sylvek observed the determined expressions on the humans' faces. He had always feared Deathworlders, believing their physical strength made them dangerous. Now he was beginning to understand that their true strength lay elsewhere, in their unbreakable will and loyalty to each other. As stars streaked past the viewports, Sylvek realized he was witnessing something the Alliance had never understood about humans. They didn't just survive on their harsh world, they thrived because of it. And now, the Varaxians were about to learn why stealing from Deathworlders was a fatal mistake. The stealth ship drifted silently toward the massive asteroid field. Inside, Commander Ethan Wells studied the sensor readings showing hundreds of space rocks ranging from car-sized to mountain-sized chunks, spinning slowly through the void. Somewhere in that mess is the Varaxian base, Kyle Bennett said. joining Ethan at the viewport. Perfect hiding spot. Their ship's engines were running at minimal power to avoid detection. Even life support was reduced to essential levels only, making the cabin cold. Everyone wore their environmental suits except for the helmet sections. Lieutenant Ryan Carter looked up from his console. I'm picking up a signal. Small craft approaching, running silent like us. That must be our Alliance contact, Ethan said. Prepare for rendezvous. The approaching vessel was unlike any they had seen before. It seemed to bend light around it, appearing almost transparent against the stars. It docked with their ship with barely a sound or vibration. The airlock opened to reveal a tall, slender alien with silvery skin that reflected the ship's dim lights. His movements were fluid, almost liquid, and his large eyes were completely black. I am Vexler of the Seraphim, he introduced himself in a soft, musical voice. The High Council sent me to assist your mission. Shilvek greeted the newcomer in the Alliance language before switching to English. Vexler is from a species known for stealth. His people can move undetected where others cannot. Vexler nodded. I have mapped the asteroid field and located the Varaxian base. He placed a small device on the table that projected a 3D hologram of a large asteroid. Their compound is built inside this rock. They have ships docked here, here, and here. 3 points lit up on the hologram. Any signs of our people? Ethan asked. I detected 4 non-Varaxian life signs in this section. Vexler pointed to a lower level of the base. Likely your missing crew members. Commander Nicole Parker, leader of the Special Tactical Team from the USS Defiance, studied the hologram. Security looks heavy. Multiple patrol patterns, sensor arrays covering all approaches. Those can be dealt with, Vexler said. I have technology that can temporarily blind their sensors. Sergeant Jake Wallace, the team's demolitions expert, grinned. And I have a few tricks that can create distractions when needed. Ethan outlined the plan. They would approach using the stealth ship, aiming for a maintenance airlock that Vexler had identified. 2 teams would enter. One led by Ethan to rescue the prisoners, another led by Commander Parker to locate and destroy the stolen research. Remember, Dr. Lydia Morris warned, we must find all copies of Dr. Grant's work. The Varaxians will have already begun analyzing it. What are the environmental conditions inside? Kyle asked. Shilvek displayed the readings Vexler had taken. Temperature is 43 degrees Celsius. Atmosphere has higher sulfur content than humans can tolerate. Gravity is 1.2 times Earth standard. So it's hot, smells bad, and will feel heavy, Kyle summarized. Sounds like my last vacation. No one laughed. For the Zephyrians used to their cool, low-gravity world, these conditions would be nearly unbearable. Even Vexler looked concerned. Your environmental suits should provide protection, Zilvek said, but their effectiveness will decrease with time in such conditions. Then we'll work fast, Ethan decided. 3 hours later, their ship drifted silently toward the target asteroid. Vexler activated a device that created a sensor shadow, hiding them from Varaxian detection. The team gathered in the airlock, checking their equipment one final time. Communications may be limited once we're inside, Ethan reminded them. If we get separated, remember the emergency rendezvous point. Everyone nodded. Ethan could see the tension in their faces, but also determination. They sealed their helmets and cycled the airlock. One by one, they pushed off from the ship, using small thrusters on their suits to guide themselves toward the asteroid's surface. Space was silent as they moved between floating rocks, careful to avoid detection. Vexler led the way, his silver suit blending with the starlight, making him nearly invisible. Shilvek followed, his movements less graceful, clearly uncomfortable in the zero-gravity environment. They reached the asteroid's surface and attached magnetic clamps to their boots. Walking carefully, they approached a small airlock door half hidden among the rocky surface. Vexler worked on the security panel while Sergeant Wallace placed small devices around the door. Just in case we need a quick exit, Wallace explained to Shilvek, who watched with fascination. The airlock door slid open with a soft hiss. The team entered quickly, the door closing behind them. As the chamber pressurized, their suit sensors began flashing warnings about the external environment. Temperature rising, Nicole noted. 42 degrees and climbing. When the inner door opened, they moved into a dimly lit maintenance corridor. The gravity immediately pulled at them, making their movements more difficult. For the humans, it was uncomfortable, but manageable. For Gilvec, it was clearly painful. His breathing became labored even through his suit systems. "Can you continue?" Ethan asked him privately through the comm. "Yes," Gilvec insisted. "I will not fail you." They moved deeper into the base, following Vexlor's maps. The corridors were designed for the larger Varaxians, with high ceilings and wide passages. This gave the team places to hide when patrols passed. After 15 minutes of careful movement, they reached a junction. According to the plan, this is where they would split up. "Commander Parker, take your team to the research labs," Ethan ordered. "We'll find the prisoners," Nicole nodded. "Good hunting, Commander." As Nicole's team disappeared down one corridor, Ethan led his group in the opposite direction. Kyle moved ahead as point man, with Ryan covering their rear. Vexler seemed to blend with the shadows, appearing and disappearing as he scouted ahead. They encountered their first Varaxian guard at a security checkpoint. Before they could plan an approach, Vexlor moved silently behind the alien and pressed a small device to its neck. The Varaxian collapsed without a sound. "Sleep inducer," Vexlor explained. "He will remain unconscious for approximately 1 hour." They passed through the checkpoint and entered a section with reinforced doors on either side. "Detention area," Kyle whispered, checking the readings on his scanner. "I'm picking up human life signs ahead." The main security door required Varaxian authorization. Gilvec studied the control panel, then pulled out a device provided by the Alliance. "This will mimic a Varaxian access code," he explained. "But it will only work once before the system recognizes the intrusion." The door slid open, revealing a corridor with cells on either side. Most were empty, but in the last cell they found what they were looking for. Dr. Olivia Grant and 3 other humans sat huddled together, their clothes torn and dirty, but alive. Dr. Grant looked up in disbelief as Ethan's team entered the cell. "Commander Wells, how did you—" "Explanations later," Ethan cut her off, helping her to her feet. "Can everyone walk?" One of the scientists had an injured leg but insisted he could move with help. Kyle and Ryan distributed emergency environment suits to the prisoners. "Once we're out, Commander Parker's team will detonate charges in the research lab," Ethan explained. "That's our signal to leave." Dr. Grant grabbed Ethan's arm. "Commander, it's not that simple. They've already begun applying my research. They're creating enhanced warriors." The rescue team exchanged concerned looks. "Where?" Ethan asked. "Laboratory section, lower level," Dr. Grant replied. "I sabotaged what I could, but they've already had success with early trials." Ethan activated his comm. "Commander Parker, be advised. Target area may contain enhanced Varaxian subjects. Extreme caution recommended." There was no response, only static. "Communications are being jammed," Ryan reported, checking his equipment. "We need to warn them," Ethan decided. "Change of plans. We get our people to the extraction point, then I'll find Parker's team." As they turned to leave, an alarm suddenly blared throughout the facility. Red lights flashed in the corridor. "They've discovered us," Kyle said grimly. Ethan made a quick decision. "New plan. We all go to the lab section. Now." Red emergency lights flashed as Ethan led his team through the Varaxian base. The rescued scientists struggled to keep up, weakened from their captivity. Dr. Grant moved alongside Ethan, her face determined despite her exhaustion. "The main lab is 2 levels down," she explained. "That's where they're conducting the enhancement procedures." The sound of heavy footsteps echoed from nearby corridors. Varaxian security forces were mobilizing to find the intruders. "This way," Vexler whispered, pointing to a maintenance shaft. "It will avoid the main corridors." One by one, they climbed down the narrow shaft. The heat was becoming unbearable, and Gilvec was struggling visibly. His environmental suit was working overtime to keep him cool, but Zephyrians were simply not built for such conditions. I can continue, he insisted when Ethan checked on him. We must stop what the Varaxians have started. They reached the lower level and moved carefully toward the laboratory section. Through a reinforced window, they saw Commander Parker's team, engaged in a firefight with Varaxian guards. They were pinned down behind some equipment, unable to advance or retreat. We need to help them, Ryan said. Sergeant Wallace studied the layout quickly. If we create a diversion from this side, they might be able to break free. Ethan nodded. Do it. Wallace prepared one of his explosive devices and placed it on a fuel conduit running along the wall. Fire in the hole, he whispered as they took cover. The explosion rocked the corridor, creating a cascade of secondary explosions as energy lines ruptured. Amid the chaos, Parker's team seized the opportunity to gain new positions. Ethan led his group into the lab from a different entrance. They found themselves in a large chamber filled with scientific equipment. In the center stood several transparent tubes, each containing a Varaxian floating in a greenish liquid. They were larger than normal Varaxians, their muscles more defined, their armor-like skin thicker. The enhanced warriors, Dr. Grant said grimly. Still in development but already stronger than their normal soldiers. Commander Parker spotted them and brought her team over. We've placed charges in the main data center, she reported. All their research will be destroyed when we detonate. Not good enough, Dr. Grant insisted. They've already integrated some of my work into their genetic modification procedures. We need to destroy the specimens too. Before they could formulate a plan, a deep voice boomed through the chamber. Impressive humans, more impressive than I expected. Kratok, the Varaxian leader, entered the lab flanked by 4 guards. Unlike when they first met, now he wore an exoskeleton that enhanced his already formidable strength. His red eyes fixed on Dr. Grant. Your research was invaluable, Doctor, though your attempts at sabotage were noted. Sabotage? Kyle asked quietly. Dr. Grant smiled grimly. I introduced errors into my formulas. Their enhanced warriors have a fatal flaw. Their cellular structure is unstable. Kratok stepped closer. A setback, nothing more. We have you again and you will correct your work. That's not happening, Ethan said, raising his weapon. The Varaxian's mouth twisted into what might have been a smile. You are outnumbered, outgunned, and in our environment. Surrender now, and some of you may survive as subjects for our experiments, Commander. Parker had been quietly positioning her team while Kratok spoke. At her signal, they opened fire simultaneously, creating a chaotic battlefield. The Varaxian guards returned fire, forcing the humans to take cover. Kratok moved with surprising speed for his size, targeting Dr. Grant. Ethan intercepted him, but was thrown back by the Varaxian's enhanced strength. His environmental suit absorbed most of the impact, but warning indicators flashed. The suit's protection was failing. Kyle and Jake engaged the guards while Ryan helped the scientists reach cover. Zilvek and Vexilor worked frantically to override the lab's security systems. Ethan struggled to his feet as Kratok approached again. The heat and heavy gravity were taking their toll, but Ethan refused to give up. He had not come this far to fail now. The Varaxian leader launched another attack, but this time Ethan was ready. He ducked under Kratok's swing and used the alien's momentum against him, a technique that worked even against stronger opponents. Kratok stumbled, crashing into one of the specimen tanks. Glass cracked, and green fluid began to leak out. Suddenly, Zilvek's voice came over the comm. The security overrides are complete. We have control of the lab systems. Dr. Grant immediately moved to a control panel. We can trigger an emergency purge. It will destroy the specimens and all related equipment. Do it, Ethan ordered, still engaged with Kratok. Alarms sounded as the purge sequence began. The remaining specimen tanks began to drain, their contents disintegrating as emergency chemicals were introduced. No, Kratok roared, abandoning his fight with Ethan to try to stop the process. It was too late. Throughout the lab, equipment shut down and specimen containers flushed their contents. Years of Varaxian research was being systematically destroyed. Time to leave, Commander Parker shouted. The charges in the data center will detonate in 5 minutes. As if responding to her words, the enhanced Varaxian guard suddenly collapsed, their bodies convulsing. Dr. Grant's sabotage was taking effect. The cellular breakdown has begun, she explained. Any Varaxian who underwent the flawed enhancement process will experience the same fate. Krytok turned to her in fury and disbelief. What have you done? I made sure your theft came with a price, Dr. Grant replied calmly. I am a doctor. I create cures, not weapons. Ethan grabbed her arm. We need to go. Now. The team retreated, toward the extraction point, fighting their way through Varaxian resistance that grew increasingly disorganized as word of the enhanced warrior's fate spread through the base. They reached the maintenance airlock where they had entered. Everyone, exhausted but alive. As they began cycling through in groups, explosions rocked the base. Parker's charges were detonating, destroying the last of the research data. From the viewport of their stealth ship, they watched as sections of the Varaxian base erupted in flames. Emergency vessels fled the asteroid, but there was no pursuit. The Varaxians were too busy trying to save what remained of their base. As the ship accelerated away from the asteroid field, the mood was one of exhausted relief. Dr. Grant and the other rescued scientists received medical attention while the team shed their damaged environmental suits. Shilvek approached Ethan on the bridge. The Zephyrian looked physically drained from the mission, but there was a new confidence in his bearing. Commander Wells, I must thank you, not just for allowing me to join this mission, but for showing me something important. What's that? Ethan asked. For generations, my people have feared Deathworlders like humans. We saw only your physical strength, your ability to survive harsh conditions. But today I learned that your true strength lies elsewhere. In your determination, your loyalty to each other, your refusal to abandon your own. Ethan smiled tiredly. That's what happens when you evolve on a world that tries to kill you every day. You learn to fight for each other. Zilvek nodded. The Alliance has much to learn from Earth, and perhaps in the future the galaxy will not fear Deathworlders, but turn to them when needed most. As stars streaked past the viewports, Ethan thought about the mission they had just completed. The Varaxians had sought to steal human strength for themselves, not understanding that what made humans dangerous wasn't just their biology, but something that couldn't be taken or copied. The will to stand together against any threat, no matter the odds. The Varaxians had learned a painful lesson. Stealing from Deathworlders was indeed a fatal mistake.